Hello, everyone. This is the second episode of the Magnetic Mind series, presented to you by the House of Cornucopia. And I am so proud to introduce to you our beautiful guest, Jessica Summers. That's a beautiful soul who I had the privilege to meet. I'll explain in a minute how we actually met. So I'm here in London. Jessica is in North California, but we were brought together, hence even the proof of the title of the series, Magnetic Minds, just like magnets, we came together. And Jessica is an international bestseller. She is an amazing expert in human transformation, human potential, and somebody who is helping a lot of people, shining the light, impacting this world, impacting so many lives in the world. It's just literally, Jessica, such a privilege to me to have you here. Of course, a public speaker. So it's not probably the first time when you're speaking to audiences, but thank you so very much to be here tonight. Well, tonight in London. Uh, yes, and to have you here. So what I'd really like to say is that when we first spoke, the story that you told me about you, it just was so powerful. I literally kept thinking about it and remembering what you told me, I think for the next like 2 days, and just thinking what human mind can actually achieve.
Mm,
And that level of awareness of people, because we're all souls just going through the human experience, that
yeah,
at times we just don't know about it. So that the awareness is just not there.
right.
And when you see what people can do just by reprogramming their thinking, just by shifting the identity and becoming aware of that, where it can bring them, I think that's just like a complete wow. And I always salute people like that. They're so inspiring. And I think what would be really great if you could share that story, because a lot of people may resonate, they may get inspired, they may get something valuable to take away. Maybe somebody needs to hear that.
Yeah,
Somebody is, it's, I don't know, in some dark moment in their lives, but that potentiality, the possibility of human mind to change the world that we observe around is just there all the time, right?
yeah. Well, thank you so much. And you know, from our first conversation, it was meant to be. So I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad this is working out. And yeah, I would love to share, like right before we started recording too. I know that my story and what I went through is for me to share because I saw so many of us go through that journey, and some of us didn't make it, and some of us are still out there. So I will try to sum up a very long story with um, once upon a time, on the outside, I had it all. I was following the rules, living life the way I had been, taught, what I learned, what I thought success was. I was married with children. I was a fashion designer. I owned a boutique. I lived in San Francisco, and I was living my best life. And I really, I couldn't have wished or hoped for anything better. However, on, not on, it was the last trimester of my second pregnancy. I didn't do anything different, living the same lifestyle, doing everything the way I did with my first one. But the pregnancy was completely different. The third trimester, I was in and out of the doctor's office, and they would do ultrasounds checking on my blood pressure, her heart rate, and fluids. So I always want to preface this too, like I didn't do anything different, but life can show up life will show up. Life does show up. And what are we going to do about it? Right.
Yeah.
So I ended up, after going home, they ended up, excuse me, they induced, it was a complicated pregnancy. I went home, would have to come back due to like debilitating ab pains. So they found that they had left placenta behind. So that right there was the beginning of the end of my life as I knew it. I did not see it coming. I had never in my wildest imagination would I ever have seen what was coming. It was one infection after another infection, and it's months turned into years of in and out of doctors' offices, specialists, medication, new diagnosis, misdiagnosis, more medication from side effects. So it's almost my life, my weird lifestyle. I'm still pushing and going and trying to show up in all the ways that I'm expected to show up, the way I expect myself to show up too. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a business owner, I'm doing life. I wasn't given the handbook to, well, what happens if you get sick?
Yes,
And you're
none of us.
doing all
Mhm.
and I thought I was doing all the right things. I keep going back to the doctors, but I keep getting all these medications, and I don't see that I'm starting to slowly dwindle. The person that I know is starting to like sink. My physical becomes mental, becomes emotional, becomes, I'm trying to ask for help, but I look okay on the outside. So it's viewed as complaining.
Mhm.
So I start internalizing that, like, get it together. What's your problem? You're failing yourself. You're failing your business, your family, your kids. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
So that, I became my own worst enemy. Excuse me. Fast forward, I get addicted to my doctor prescribed pain pills. I had actually, I mentioned it to my doctor too, like, I think I'm taking too much medication. However, I still have this problem. I don't know what to do. I'm in a loop basically. And so I get more medications. And it's just, I'm a mess at this time though, because by the time you're in it and you're so far in it, you're not even really, you're advocating for yourself, but you're not even the person that you once were. And you don't recognize yourself.
Yeah.
You're just behaving the best way you can. But I also, by this time, I'm kind of giving up a little bit. I'm pushing, sliding back, pushing. Then I decide that's it. I'm done. I told my family, friends, I'm done with all this medication. I'm done with this in and out of doctor's offices. I'm going to stop taking everything. So I did, which made everything 10 times worse because I'm addicted to this medication as
Yeah,
well as
of
being
course. Of
ill, as I'm a mess. So I start going out at night, start meeting people that I should not be hanging out with. I'm kind of a pathetic human being. I'm just wanting anybody to listen to me, to say, "Oh, I know exactly what you need. I know, oh, I've heard of that before. Let's get you some help."
Mhm.
Um, but instead, I met the wrong people, start street drugs, and would eventually, excuse me, would eventually telling on myself. Ended up in a mental institution for 17 days, misdiagnosed bipolar, put on
Wow.
medication for it. 3 days out of a 17-day hold, I was given separation papers, and I would end up losing everything, and I would end up homeless. So, did I wake up one day and decide I was going to completely ruin everything that was good in my life?
Hmm.
Absolutely not. But it is a very interesting place when you find yourself there and you question yourself. Who are you?
Yeah.
Who does that? So it was a journey to say the least. But I uh, I was in a situation where I did enough drugs. I wasn't trying to take my own life, but I was in such a dark place that I wasn't paying attention, and I did enough drugs to kill me. But at the same time, I said, God, why would you want me to suffer so bad? And I felt something come over me, and it was a an awareness, and it was going to be okay. And I didn't have the answer or the solution, but it was one little seed of hope, and I decided to jump on. I whatever that was my little bit of hope and light that just got dangled in my face just for a moment. Because when I was on the bottom, it was spiritual warfare. It was so dark and ugly, and I was hopeless, and there was no way out. But once I started doing the work, every step forward gave me new insight into the way I thought, my learned behaviors, and my own thought processes that were holding me down and holding me back.
Yeah.
Once I said, oh, I thought this way about myself because of this behavior. Once I started learning and understanding, I mean, not only about myself, but about addiction, about mental health issues, about how the brain works, just so much unlearning of what I thought I knew and actually doing a deep dive into learning more. And I know we've talked a lot about awareness.
Hmm.
Once you have the awareness of the your capacity
Yeah.
of understanding and growing and learning and continuous expansion, whoo, I
Yeah.
mean, we're limitless. We are. We really, really are.
Absolutely. And I think, like you said, see how in your story it all started with the question, like, who am I? Right? How I always say, it's even like, who I think am I? And
Yeah.
how have I even come to this place, you know? And I remember from the what we talked about before, you also mentioned that you didn't really want your daughters to think of their mother as somebody who is like addicted to medication, somebody who is obviously going through some mental turbulence, and things like, well, she's not really an achiever, right? So she's got basically nothing to offer rather than probably being like a burden in a way, and that's the least that we as parents want. So I think that's but for you it was like a turning point. Well, that's it. And the decision, it all starts with a decision, right? So when we make that decision, in your case it was like enough is enough, and rather than really listening to what the outside world tells you, although I understand there were medical situations, but even when people would say, hey, you've got this bipolar, condition, and well, it was, you were misdiagnosed and everything. So I was like, no, that's not me. And that's not me that I even have been before. And actually, I probably don't even know who I can be. I'm just barely scratching the surface of what I can be. So I think that's what when it starts with a decision. So I think it's just like a massive identity shift, as we say, self-concept, right? What am I
Mhm.
here for? Because every one of us is brought here for a reason, is put here on planet Earth to do things.
Yeah.
And but it's all about being happy, being prosperous, being, loved and love in return. And that's what we are supposed to really experience in this human life. And I think that the that conscious of being, that's what actually started the whole thing, right? And that's when you just studying, like you said, when I became aware, like, of what I can actually do. It's like Bob Proctor used to say, well, I've been studying myself all my life. He's somebody who
Yeah.
was teaching that material for 60 years. But for
Yeah.
him to study himself and literally just going from the energy, like, what if I could, to I actually can. And
Yeah.
absolutely 100% I can. And it doesn't matter the outside circumstance or anything else because I'm in control. So, yeah. So I think in your case, what would you say that what consciousness actually brought you to where you are now? Because the difference, right? From the
Right.
point where you were and where you're now, it's just like absolutely bonkers how it actually happened.
Right. And for me, I see it now as such. First of all, I would never wish my journey on my worst enemy, because it got very, I was
Yeah.
walking that fine line. But the fact that I had been kept given these medications without answers, then these misdiagnoses, it made me start to question that how easy it was to label a behavior and not listen to me because it was too much. That's too much. Here you go. Here's a label. It was very easy to
Yeah.
do. And I won't go off on my tangent on that and stick to the topic and the question. But I think once we just stop and listen, somebody could say, this is who you are, whether it's good, bad, right, wrong.
Yeah. Mhm.
Sometimes we just accept it. I decided to not accept anything anybody was telling me anymore, whether it
Mhm.
was right, good, anything. And I decided I'm going to take the journey into really understanding myself. Because if I'm saying, no, this isn't who I am, then who am I then? I'm
Mhm.
only saying no to these negative things that I don't want to be. Then who am I that I want to be?
Yeah, your identity. So what was that self-concept of yours? Who did you decide to be that shifted things so massively for you?
So
Of
I w- uh, this journey has been going on and has been unfolding for a while. Every time I think, oh,
course. Mhm.
wow, look at how far I have come. There's always something new and expanding and growing. At first, I only wanted to be an example for my children.
Mhm.
I think with the discussion that we had before, when
Yeah.
they had been told that I was a bipolar drug addict that had abandoned them, my first um, awakening, I guess, my
Right.
first, okay, I'm not going to accept that. That was my only goal, just to show up for them. How
Mhm.
can how can I heal myself enough to be a a healthy, thriving mother for my children? That's all I wanted because
Mhm.
I could not see past that. Where I was, there
Yes.
was no seeing past that. So, well, so then I did that. I started healing, growing, and the relationships changed. The conversations changed.
Mhm.
So all of a sudden I was there. And then I just thought, okay, well, I just want to be able to show up for them. I want to be able to provide. And it was very just kind of small at first. I just wanted for me and
Yeah.
my girls.
Mhm.
But then I thought bigger and I thought, wait a minute. I've seen women that were right alongside of me that give or take 5, 10 years in age difference, but their children were a couple of years in age difference from mine that aren't alive anymore. And so what are the stories that their children are hearing? I have to be that voice because I did make it, right? So every everything that I have healed has brought me closer into all of the things that I envision in being of service for others, because I feel that that is my place now. I
That's your calling.
that happened for me
Yeah.
so I can show that it is possible for all of us. And it's there.
Yeah. It's there. It's possible. It's just wow. That's powerful, of course. Yeah. It's just that's the calling. I'm going to listen to that, that inner voice that and that's how do we even know that that's the way for us? Because it feels good, right? The truth always feels good. Like and because really what manifests is our consciousness of being. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm conscious of being that person. So not because somebody said, hey, you're of the wrong, whatever, gender, you don't have enough education, you are like of wrong, whatever, age, religion or skin color or anything else, because whatever it is, the outside world is telling us. But just saying, no, 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 wait a minute, that's not me. And my truth is the one that I know that I control. I am the one who can do that. I am the one who feels amazing, by, impacting this world, helping people. And of course, nothing happens just in one night, right? So it, like you said, it
Right.
starts with little steps. First, it's like, I just want to show up as a healthy mother who is there for them, supporting them, guiding, and etc. But when you said it's called like probably dream bigger, I love that. Then you just go like, oh, that's not just it, right? There is way more. And now look at you,
Right.
how much influence you have, how many people you're helping, and all these, changed lives that come to your energy. So that's beautiful. That's just amazing. Yeah.
I think too, the more I did it, the more I wanted to do some more, the
Yeah.
more I would test it, the
Yeah.
more I couldn't stop because I know that I came from completely hopeless, no way out.
Yeah.
And once I started to like peel back, because of course I did the work for the obvious, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
It's like, okay, this is obvious. Take care of these things. But there was more than just taking care of the obvious. And that's something that I try to talk about more and openly about it, is that we limit ourselves by just taking care of the obvious.
Hmm.
We are that we limit ourselves there time and time again because, well, it's okay, I'm doing okay over here, so we can pretend that's not happening. We limit ourselves left and right just by the things that we think we know for sure.
Hmm.
We hold on to dear life with that, and that keeps us from expansion, that keeps us from actually where we are meant to go.
Yeah. All the way, rather than being in that like survival mode. Survival is obviously the basics that the very first thing that we have. But possibilities are endless, and that's for sure. Like you said, you just achieve one, and then you already know that there is like more. Oh, I've done that. I can do even more. How about if, I do just like, other things. At first, I also, having left my corporate career and just stepping into a completely new identity, but it felt so good when I thought, right, okay, who am I now? So I decided that it's all about like helping people, serving them.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I decided, right, I'll be somebody who will, teach this beautiful material because the curriculum is almost like one of the best ones in the world ever, that mindset and manifestation. But the thing is, it's also the identity of somebody who can deliver that, who can inspire, who can lead people. Somebody, then I decided that I'll just become like a public speaker. And then all these opportunities started coming in. I wasn't even looking for them or searching. So, and that's what attracts, because then you
Yes.
just start being on that beautiful frequency that is an alignment of who you decide to be. And then
Mm,
suddenly, it's the 15th of February was when? On Saturday. So that was exactly a year, just a year since, it all happened. So, and yes, opportunities are endless. So now rather than, for example, just helping, one person or some random like two or three, I'm literally after like a ripple effect. That's why I'm
yes.
creating all these groups and they're all coming, and it's just so, so amazing. So yeah,
Yes.
thank you so much, Jessica. It's like such a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing it. And yes, it's obviously you've shown the biggest vulnerability, but there is such a beautiful power behind that. When people show, not from the concept, but from the experience
Mm.
possible out there. I'm very, very much grateful for you to be
Oh,
here and for all the
it's my
wonderful words and
pleasure.
the wisdom. And yes, thank you so very much. So
Thank
great.
you for having me. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.